I would like to talk a little bit about our putting our final polish on our jewelry pieces. And we are in lockdown, meaning like we don't have access to our tools and jewelry shop. And so I have some tips on how to get a nice polish without a lot of tools. Okay, so first thing, having your work prepped correctly will make so much difference. So you want to get through your filing. See if I can get it in the camera right. You want to get through your filing, right? And I would suggest that you're going to keep your paper on your metal as long as you can. This is so that if you skid out during your filing or just bunging around the shop, wherever, you're not putting new scratches in. And so the paper kind of also protects your metal. Once you get through your filing, you're going to go through your sanding. And so just to reminder, work wet with your paper. Make sure that your paper is marked. You want to start, I usually use 320 for just spot sanding. Some people start with 320 all over. That's your choice. But when you go to 400, you're going to make sure you adopt one direction, going back and forth on your metal. And then you'll be looking underneath that sanding grain to see if you have gotten your scratches out. Okay? And then when you move to 600, you're going to change directions. Okay. So that said, when you are starting with your 600, you'll first see kind of a squarish pattern in your metal because you've changed directions. You keep going until you can only see the 600 sandpaper. And remember, you are looking underneath that grain, that sandpaper, to see if when it's coming out. So if you don't have a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass to do that, you want to just kind of glint your metal in the light, and you should be able to see underneath your sanding grain. But ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, right? If a scratch is there, a scratch is there. And it's really just about perseverance, getting your scratches out. You know, the thing of I tried, well, the real measure of that is whether you've gotten the scratch out. So you just have to stay with it until it's done. Okay, so you've got your metal prepped to 600. Here's a technique if you don't have access to Tripoli and Rouge. One can take just a kitchen spoon and do kind of a circular rub. You're making sure you're not gouging your metal with the lip of the spoon, but you can burnish your metal, and indeed that will kind of close the scratches on the surface so that light can be reflected. So here I am just doing soft little circles, and I'm using maybe medium pressure. You can put kind of pressure scars into your metal, but just little soft circular motion with the back of a spoon. This is burnishing. There is a real burnishing tool that you can get, and it's kind of a long, pointy tool that has a smooth surface, but it has a little bit of a curve to it. So you can just see right here, where did I polish? Right there. You can kind of see the glint of light on how I polished that. and that is done by burnishing. There's some advantages to burnishing in that because you're compressing the metal, right? You're pressing those scratches closed so the light can reflect off of a smooth surface, right? You are not removing metal. It's not an abrasive. It's a rub, okay? So some people choose to use burnishing to save money. If I was working in gold, I wouldn't necessarily want to sand away my material, right? Because there's a lot of money in that dust, right? So a lot of people opt for burnishing because, again, it does not remove metal. Okay, sometimes it's kind of hard to with the spoon, but sometimes you can't get into a crevice with a brush or a buff, right? So with the correct, this isn't really shaped right, but if it's kind of a burnishing tool, sometimes you can kind of get into a nook or cranny with a burnisher also. So that's really helpful to have that. Now, the traditional way is to sand and then buff with buffing compounds. Okay, so we're looking at two different compounds here. I have Tripoli, which is a brown kind of cake, reddish brown kind of cake. And then I have Rouge. And Rouge is a redder brown kind of cake. So you need to be able to identify the difference between those two compounds. Because indeed, if you were to use the Rouge first, it is like the finer sandpaper. So you would be sanding backwards. For example, the Tripoli, I'm going to guess, is like a 1500 or an 1800 sandpaper. Rouge is like a 2500 sandpaper. Okay, so you want to make sure you do Tripoli first, then Rouge, so that you don't end up going backwards with your polish. Okay? Now, in a normal workshop, buffing compounds, they are not good for you. Okay? So whenever you use buffing compounds on a buffing machine, you should have ventilation. You should wear a mask. Okay? The buffing tool itself is also very dangerous. So there's a lot of precaution when you come to buffing. But this method right here can pretty much be done anywhere. It's not really, I guess you could wear a mask. I don't really see the need because it's not that dusty. Okay? So that said, I have two cloths. I had gotten some old bed sheets, right? And I cut them up. They're flannel, nice flannel sheet. And with my Tripoli, I've taken this and I have just rubbed that Tripoli into the surface of the cloth. Okay? Like so. And I've already done some right over here. Now, this will probably last you a good while. Okay? All right. So with that, you're just going to rub hard. And if I'm working on good furniture, whatever, I like to have some kind of paper down or another surface down so I'm not going to hurt anything. Okay, so here I am, and I am just rubbing hard. I'm giving it a hard rub. If I really want to use some elbow grease, I'll probably stand up so I can get some good leverage into my metal. And I'm giving that the hard rub. Okay. I can wipe off any other residual compound. You can see I have a little bit on my cloth. Normally in the workshop, I would use a grease cutter. The compounds that we're working with are held together with a heavy grease. Okay, and so it tends to cling to your metal. Okay, so if I was working at the buffing wheel, I would wash my jewelry piece. I usually use ammonia and dish soap. Dish soap, yes. Okay, and I clean it. With this, I think we can just hand rub, with the clean area of your fabric. Okay, so you can see, get it up here, where I have polished. I've polished this area right here. Whoop, right there. That is with Tripoli. Okay. And so then my next step, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to put rouge on my cloth. And then I am going to do the same process. Hard rub. Hard rub. And this is kind of your unveiling of your metal. If you have done a good job with sanding, this should go really easy. But if you have any underlying scratches, it will really show them off. So, if you've discovered that you have a deep scratch in your metal, really the right answer is that you go back and sand it. You should kind of guesstimate. You don't necessarily have to go back to 320, but you might have to go over it with 600 or 400 and go through that process in that area again to get out a scratch. So here I am, the metal with hand rubbed, hand polish, Tripoli and rouge. Okay. And I think that's pretty darn shiny. I think most people would be happy with that. Okay. All right. Just so you know, in stores, very often you find this product. This is a rouge cloth. And it is sold to keep tarnish off of metal, right? To kind of keep your jewelry nice and bright. So you can sometimes, maybe you have one in the house. So they sell them often at jewelry stores. Okay. I just use old flannel shirts, old flannel sheets, whatever, and make my own. Okay. So that's what's in your jewelry kit. So for your project, you should have some area with a hand-polished surface. Okay? And so if you have decided that you want to have a matte finish, a sanded finish, you can put the hand polish on your sample hearts that we made. Okay, so that I know that you have overviewed the process. Okay, so let me know if you have a hard time, but that is a hand polished buff. Thank you so much.